everyone, and welcome back to the Real Positive Girl podcast. My name is Sabrina. Happy Tuesday to you all. I hope that you're having a fantastic day today. I hope that it's going well and that, you have a lot of amazing things planned. You feel productive. You feel hopeful. I feel like everyone's word for 2021 is like hopeful, or at least that's one of your words, because we're all very hopeful that it's going to be better than last year because, oh my gosh, it's so funny how it's funny in hindsight that, everyone walked into 2020 being like, this is going to be my year, throwing your hair back over your shoulder, feeling good. And then, it turns out that it was just a mess, a hot mess. So I think that everyone is feeling a bit hopeful in 2021, including myself. But I do hope that you're having a great day. Just a reminder that this week we are talking about Own Who You Are. And today, Tuesday, we're going to specifically talk about Own Your Past. But before we jump into the episode, again, happy Tuesday. If you are having a hard day where you feel like you just kind of wish you could just do it again, or you could cut out some parts, or you can just kind of leave some parts behind you, I encourage you to do the 5-minute reset, which is to take at least 5 minutes to be by yourself and allow yourself to reset, reboot, restart your day right then and there. It'll also allow you to take a break from any issues or burdens that are weighing you down, causing you stress, contributing to whatever disappointment, dysfunction is happening in your day. You can also spend some time coming up with resolutions for any problems or issues that you're dealing with others or by yourself. I always encourage everyone to come up with a list of at least 4 things that you are grateful for, big, small, medium size. You could be grateful that you're getting back into gardening. Maybe you are grateful that spring is right around the corner. Maybe you're grateful that you found out you did really well on exams that happened, or you're geared up for ones that are coming up, or maybe you are grateful that your routine and schedule is back to normal now that we have passed all of the major holidays, which I feel like I'm very grateful for that as well. But you can literally be grateful for anything, which makes the list never ending, endless, and that is fantastic. And last but not least, before you end your 5-minute reset, make sure that you're feeling at least neutral, if not positive, about the rest of your day, so that you can hopefully spend more time thinking about the positive and the blessings and the amazing things happening in your life rather than the negative, so it will help you carry yourself through those negative times. But I do hope that on this Tuesday, you're having a really, really good day. And like I said at the top of the show, this week we are talking about Own Who You Are. And today, Tuesday, we're going to talk about Own Your Past. So let's just jump right into it. Today, I want to talk about the thing that out of this entire week of what we are going to talk about was the easiest for me and hopefully for you too. We are going to talk about owning your past. And it's interesting that I even recognize the fact that owning my past, out of all the things that we are speaking about, was the easiest. But it's because I decided from a very young age, and when I say young, I mean more of high school, that I was just going to own everything that had happened to me, and that there was really no going back. There was no way to undo it. I had already been wishing to undo so many things when I was a child, in elementary school and middle school, but there was nothing I could do. And terrible things happened, and that's just how life is. So I just decided, that I was just going to move on. And, so many people actually give me a really big pat on the back for that. They're like, I can't believe you just owned everything once they figure out, or they've been told, or I told them what has happened to me in the past. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you didn't let that stuff weigh you down. You didn't decide to be a victim. And I can't say that I never was a victim. There's definitely times and periods where, especially when I was younger, that it was rough, and I was still trying to figure it out and transition to not letting it bother me as much. There's definitely things that pop up here and there, even now in my adult life, but it's because we're all not perfect, and it's not that I'm letting it weigh me down. It's more of I get triggered for things, and then those emotions roll in, and sometimes you just don't want to stop it, right? You just want to go on that emotional roller coaster and see where you land, because maybe something new will pop up, maybe you'll learn something new about yourself, and then just be cognizant and aware enough that you are able to stop yourself before it goes down to a deep, dark hole, which I can't say that I've stopped every single time, but luckily figured out a way to get out. So anyway, so today I want to talk about owning your past because it's super important. So obviously, Obviously, the past is in the past. You can't change it. You can't swap it. You can't return it. You can't do anything like that. And you have to accept what has happened because there really isn't anything else you can do. And that's literally the way that I think about it. There's literally nothing else you can do. You can sit there all day long and deny that anything has happened to you, or you can deny that life is always going to be terrible based on these experiences. You can spend all your time blaming that on someone else, but it's not going to make it go away. It's not going to change it. You don't get a redo. You don't really get redos on those kind of things. So you have to just accept that that was a thing. That was an experience, no matter how bad or embarrassing or uncomfortable or painful that experience was. Just be grateful that you were able to come from behind it, and now you're living a better life, even if it's still slowly emerging or working that way. It's just like any time that you fail or make a mistake, you have to realize that, those failures and mistakes will actually help you grow and become stronger. It's really hard to see that in the moment when you are, fresh with those feelings. But I feel like that's the same with anything. You just have to figure out how to muddle through it at first, and then you'll become stronger because you're not letting it hold you back. The funny thing about the past is that people always want to throw out what has happened to them in the past, more specifically when it was a negative experience, because it's much easier to forget and avoid something rather than deal with it. It's much easier to just be like, okay, this terrible thing has happened. I'm just going to forget that it happened and move forward. And it actually links back to what I was talking about yesterday, where if you were just continually sweeping your emotions and feelings under the rug, you are going to turn around one day and go to sweep something under there, and it's going to be the biggest mountain you've ever seen. But then when something just tips it off, all of a sudden it's not a mountain anymore. It's a volcano and it's going to erupt, and it's not going to be fun. So again, I encourage you, and if you haven't listened to that episode, I encourage you to go back because it'll be helpful. But I encourage you to realize that you can't just pretend like something didn't happen. You can't just try to glaze over it or sweep it under the rug, because that's not going to help you in the long run. And it'll actually cause more problems than solve more problems. Really, you don't see it that way, because forgetting and moving on from something or pretending it didn't happen is an easy fix. A lot of times easy fixes are not the thing that's going to help you the best. I talk about it all the time. The things we go through provide so much growth and learning opportunities, which I understand isn't the most fun thing. I get it. But it's necessary to understand yourself better and become your best self, though it will help you do those things. And yeah, it's not fun. I think it's fun. Sometimes it's not, though. Sometimes it's actual work that you have to do, which can seem very overwhelming, super emotional, things that you don't want to actually, a lot of times it's very anxiety driven, stress, because it's the uncertainty, the unknown of what's going to come out of those experiences, right? You don't know exactly how you're going to feel after you decide to muddle through all of that stuff and figure it out, or just take a little peek and be like, okay, how did I feel about that? Because a lot of times when we go and look back at the past experiences and try to evaluate what happened and what we can take from that as learning pieces and growth and move forward, it brings up a lot of emotion. It kind of feels like you're reliving the whole thing, which is not what you want to do too much, but you have to at least reflect a little bit just to be able to take those nuggets out with you. But yeah, and I definitely could not get away from this episode without mentioning again how much growth and learning opportunities there are in reflecting on your past. On the flip side, though, there are some people that choose to instead live in the past. And, I am guilty of this, but more for things that have happened more in the last 10 years and not in the last 20. You know what I mean? There's definitely a break in there where I kind of drew a line in the sand, and I was like, okay, I'm just over this. I'm going to take what I need from it. I'm going to move forward. But there's definitely been other things where I've like lived in the past and just let it like wreck me, right? Just let it wreck me, take over my life. And I feel like that's even more worse than just trying to pretend like it didn't happen. You get so caught up in what has happened and get into a whirlwind of thinking it means more than it usually does and let it hold you back from the rest of your life, from actually venturing out and continuing on that path and journey that you were going down, because it feels like there was a roadblock. There feels like there was like an ocean or like a brick wall or some sort of blockade put in your way from whatever it is that you experience, whatever it is that you had to go through. And that's just not the case. It's just something that we put there because we just feel stuck and we feel like it's so traumatic. We didn't figure out how to work through that trauma. And how sad is it though that we let certain experiences hold us back from living and being who we were meant to be. I get that it might have sucked, those negative experiences, but you don't have to let it be all consuming and controlling. And a lot of times it's not necessarily traumatic or negative. It's just like embarrassing, overwhelming, awkward, whatever the case may be. But you continue to relive it in your mind because you're like, how could this have happened? Why couldn't I have done this, that, and the other? Why couldn't this person intervene? And then you just continue to live there because you're like, oh my gosh, well, I can't possibly do this, that, and the other now. I can't actually go after this. I'm not capable of that. You're just making up all these things, but you're really making up excuses because you do not know how to properly let go of this experience, especially if it was a negative experience. Something else that could be holding you back is the feeling of, if you are not taking the steps to work within forgiveness, if someone has wronged you, that will definitely hold you back in the past. Also, if the trauma was just so high and no one has come alongside you to help you kind of deal with what happened and how that's going to affect you and how you cannot let it affect you in certain ways, and then continue to move forward and not let it drag you down, not let those experiences define who you are and what you can do, because it's just an experience. It's not the end of the world, and I feel like a lot of people will let it be the end of their world when you just really need to push through that pain. It'll be difficult for a little while, but we all have to muddle through sometimes. I personally grew up with a ton of terrible experiences. I don't know if I've really shared that much of what's happened to me, and someday I will, for sure. I am all about being authentic and transparent. I am not ashamed of the things that I went through. I'm not. But it's had to be a great time, to share that with you guys. But yeah, I grew up with a ton of terrible experiences, just to give you a picture of my mother, who at first was just dealing drugs, just selling them. And then later another influence pushed her to actually start using. So, you're selling, you're using, getting into trouble there that way. My dad was, or is, he's still alive. My mom's not, but great guy, in a way, terrible to me. But there were still great things. He taught me a lot of things. He manned up and decided to raise me because he knew that if I stayed with my mom, I would have gone down the same troubling road that all my other siblings have, that I'm connected to through my mom. But he was also very abusive. He was also very narcissistic, caught in his own troubles. My mom really screwed him over with several other things. And there's a lot of abuse and mental abuse and physical abuse. And it was tough. And then there are other abuse issues with other people. And it was a whole thing. But in all of that, just giving you a quick glimpse into the things that I dealt with, I chose to learn from those because it was the choice that allowed me to not be continuously haunted by what happened. I can look back now and, jump to a very specific situation where, I was spending time with my mom, and we went to her friend's house, and they decided to leave. And they're like, my mom's like, I'll be right back. and that we're just going to go out and come right back. And I believe I was like 6 or 5 or something like that, between 5 and 7, I would say. And but I remember I being like, okay, but they left me. And I remember it was one of those apartments that's like underground, so it had a window, but the window was like at ground level. Do you know what I mean? So I sat this whole time, and the couch was like right under that window. So I sat standing on the couch looking out this window the whole time. It was hours. It was like 5 or 6 hours. And there came a point where I started just like crying and screaming and yelling and wondering if she was ever going to come back. And I didn't know what to do. You know, they just left me there alone. Like I was there alone. And it was a very traumatic experience for me. I can laugh and just look at it in hindsight as if that was an experience, but I'm not going to let it like dictate how I'm going to live my life, how I'm going to, think of my mom in a general scope of who she was. She went through so much of her own crap, I realized that even then. But it was hard for me, and it was not the way that you treat your child, right? But there were so many things that I learned from those experiences, and I chose to learn it because, I didn't want those things to haunt me and to cause me trouble and cause me to create new fears as an adolescent and as an adult going forward, because that wasn't going to be good for me. That wasn't going to be helpful. So I encourage you to do the same. Just realize that if you do not choose to learn from those past experiences, negative or just weird or unpleasant in general, you will allow them to haunt you, and that's going to continue to pull you back and away from the journey that you're trying to take to become a better person. It also taught me those experiences, my past, it taught me how to be a better person, a better mom, a better wife, a better friend, because I chose to not let negativity crush me. You can do the same. There's so much crap that happened in my family, and a lot of times when people will hear even like a quick summary version of like a rundown of like the major events that happened, people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you didn't get caught up in that, or you didn't have these issues, that issues. Like I came out with some issues, for sure. I was not unscathed. A lot of mental health issues, to be honest. And a lot of those have been fixed. I still struggle. Obviously, we all struggle in our own way. But yeah, I didn't let the negativity crush me because I didn't want to be as sad and lonely and tortured as all the people that were in and out of my life that I had to deal with. I also didn't want to be like the people that were treating me badly. I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be the mom that just left your kid randomly at someone's house for hours to go do who knows what, probably drugs, most likely. And, I didn't want to, I'm not going to be the parent that like beats my child or says terrible negative things to them, that doesn't encourage them or show them love and compassion while still being responsible and restrictive and, creating boundaries. You're learning responsibility, but still being fun. There's that even balance there, and neither one of my parents did that balance at all. And it was tough, but I chose to take all the experiences that I went through, even the trouble that I caused for myself, because it wasn't just on everyone else and in the environment I was in. It was also me making some negative choices that I did out of like anger and rage and just in response to what else was going on in my life. But I still didn't let that negativity crush me. There was a point where I made the choice, and I feel like it was a little bit later in high school, but it was definitely before I went to college, where I was just like, this is just the way that it was. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm going to go and get a fresh start. And I think that was part of it too. It was like, okay, soon you're going to get out of here. You're going to move away from this crap. It's going to be fine. And you got to think of it that way. You got to find some sort of hope. I talk about being positive and hopeful, and encouraging and everything. And yeah, it can really be sucky and hard and terrible. And you don't want to do that, but you don't have to be positive in a fake way. You can just be hopeful and be like, this really sucks right now, but I know that I can get through it. I know that there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. I know that even tomorrow can be a better day better day than today. And if I could just make it through the next day, I can continue to see that light and get closer to it and hopefully be released from this season of life that I'm currently trapped in. That is the kind of way that I like to think about it. And I also got more involved with the church and everything, and that really helped to, when I was younger, spur my hopefulness and my faith and my belief. And I honestly think that's one of the biggest things that really saved me too. And, maybe that's not your thing. That's fine. But it was something that really, 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 really helped me. And I will say that there was a point in my life where I was a little overzealous, I will say. But I kind of came down from that. And I feel like a lot of people, when you're, moving and grooving in your face, sometimes you can get a little overzealous. You got to find the balance there. I feel like when you enter different seasons and parts of your life, you have to find the balance of that because you get really excited or overwhelmed. You got to find the balance between those things, which is something we should talk about sometime in the future. So let me know if you want to do that. But yeah, so let's get back on track, you guys, so we can finish up this episode. But yeah, I decided not to let negativity crush me. You can do the same. I believe in you. You should believe in yourself. You should have hope and understand that you can do it. Now, whether you are on the side of being obsessed with your past and letting it rule your life, like we were just talking about, or trying to pretend like none of it happened, you need to understand that it is a part of you and something you should try to use as a reference for what to do, what not to do, or do something better or different. It's just really a reference guide. That's how I like to think of my past. You're going to have lots of good memories in there, but then you're also going to have negative experiences. And you're going to be like, okay, well, what did that teach me? What should I do differently? How should I, evaluate that? Or was that just like a one and done and I just need to move on and realize that that was just, a chapter, a paragraph in a chapter in that section of the book and just move past it. It's fine. Not pretend like it didn't happen. Just realize it happened, accept it, and move on. You have to make those kind of choices. You have to realize that your past is important. It'll teach you a lot of things, make you stronger, make you who you are, and that's important. That's super important. The biggest piece of information I want to share with you as we begin to close this episode is that you need to accept your past to better appreciate your future. That's just it. You have to accept your past to better appreciate your future. If you get so stuck in wishing things had gone differently, you won't appreciate how it's actually turning out or becoming better than you even expected. And, think about the things that I was sharing with you. If I had, been so stuck in the past or so overwhelmed by it or trying to pretend like it didn't happen, then I could get so caught up in thinking that the things that have happened in my life won't happen, or not appreciate them, or even take things for granted. No one needs to do that. You have to appreciate that what you've gone through and be able to look at the timeline and be like, wow, look how much I've grown, or look how much better this is, or look how this turned out, or look how this took this turn and I didn't even expect it, but it's way better than the thing that I was trying to plan. Right? Sometimes we just got to be flexible and let it go. You're going to want to turn the wheel here and there a little bit, but sometimes you got to just take a different path, add a little bit more excitement, change a little bit. It'll really, really help. Or just not be so intent on being controlling over every little thing and realize how amazing of a reference guide your past was to kind of give you a basis on how to be for the future. A couple other things of owning your past to keep in mind that could help you if you struggle with that. Accept the attached negative emotions. Like I said, sometimes I will get triggered with a memory that's happened before in the past. And sometimes I'll just let it play through because I'm like, what is this trying to tell me? What have I not? Is there something in there that's still stuck in there that hasn't fully been figured out? Let's see. And let's try to figure it out. Grow through what you go through. Super cheesy, but true. You have to grow through what you go through. It'll make you stronger. It'll add that armor, that steel on you, which will be great. And then go slow with yourself. So if there is a lot of things that happened to you in the past, negative or awkward or whatever it is, however you want to categorize it, just understand that if you do want to start accepting it and using it to your best ability as a good reference guide to understand yourself better and to become stronger and use it to become your best self, go slow with yourself. Don't just make yourself like dive headfirst into just accepting everything. It could be more painful than you even imagine. And what if there's some things that you haven't thought about in so long because you're trying to pretend like they didn't exist? But you have to go through it, you have to review it, and then you take what you need and move forward. So just consider that. Go slow with yourself. You don't have to rush, but just make sure you're working on it because it'll really help you. And then you don't have to deal with it later. Not as much, at least. But that's all I have to say about that, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast. Again, my name is Sabrina. Oh, happy Tuesday to you guys. I hope that you're having a great day. I encourage you to listen to yesterday's episode. But thank you for listening today. And I thank you so much for listening, downloading, sharing, telling your friends, loving the show. I encourage you to check the description box for notes for the show, where to find me on Instagram, which I'm super active on my personal one, and I'm trying to be active every day on the show page. Not really in my stories. You guys, I need ideas. What am I supposed to be talking about over there? I don't know. But I'm trying to post a graphic every day so you guys will know what's coming and if anyone has questions. Or you can send me an email. So you can contact me via Instagram, DM, or email for any questions, comments, concerns, prayer requests, feedback, topic suggestions, or just to say hey, hi, and hello to me. Just so you know, I don't read that every time. I've just memorized it, and sometimes it comes out a little wonky, and that's okay. Thank you so much, you guys. You're amazing. I thank you for coming back and continuing to make my dreams come true with being able to talk to you and share tips, advice, help, whatever I can do to help you guys. But until tomorrow, which we are talking about owning your desires, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.